Wait, did Tucker Carlson really just say that about Muslims? And Joe Rogan, of all people, reacted in a way nobody saw coming? Hold on tight, because this story isn't just about media drama. It's about lessons that can change how you live your life. Straight from Islamic wisdom. Let's break it down in 5 punchy points. You know what's crazy? A single sentence can shake the whole internet. Tucker said something about Muslims, and boom, clips everywhere, arguments on fire, debates exploding like popcorn in a microwave. That's the thing about words. They're not harmless little sounds floating in the air. They're loaded weapons. They can cut deeper than knives, heal faster than medicine, or ignite fires bigger than TNT. Words matter, and let's be real, we all know this from experience. Ever had someone say one cruel comment to you that you still remember years later? Like, they probably don't even remember saying it, but you still feel that sting? Or on the flip side, ever had someone say one encouraging thing, just one line that kept you going through the hardest season of your life? Yeah. That's the power of words. In Islam, it's not a small deal. Prophet Muhammad gave us a golden rule that could save entire Twitter wars. Speak good or remain silent. Let that sink in. Not speak what you want, not speak your truth. No, speak good. That means if your words don't uplift, heal, or guide, then zip it. Silence becomes the smarter option, because silence never goes viral for the wrong reason. Now here's the part people underestimate. Words are like arrows. Once they leave your mouth, you can't pull them back. Tucker's sentence? Gone. It's in the ether. He can apologize, he can explain, he can spin it, but the arrow's already been shot. Same for you and me. That sarcastic joke you thought was funny? It may sit in someone's heart like a dagger for years. That compliment you thought was small? It may be the reason someone decides to keep pushing forward when they were about to give up. There's a story from the Prophet's life that nails this point. A man came to him and said, "Advise me." The Prophet didn't give a long lecture. He just said, "Do not get angry." The man asked again and again and again. The Prophet repeated the same words, "Do not get angry." Why? Because when you're angry, the first thing you lose control of is your tongue. You say things you regret, things you can't undo. That's where destruction begins. Think about fights. Most arguments don't start with fists, they start with words. A husband says something careless to his wife. A friend cracks a joke that cuts too deep. A stranger posts a comment that feels like poison. Words are the spark, and if you're not careful, they can burn down relationships, families, even entire communities. But let's flip it. What if we actually used our words as tools instead of weapons? Imagine your words as seeds. Every conversation, you're planting something. Some seeds grow into trust, love, and unity. Others grow into hate, bitterness, and division. What kind of garden are you planting in the hearts of the people around you? You know what's wild? We live in the age of microphones. Everyone's got one now. Instagram captions, TikTok rants, Twitter threads. Everybody is broadcasting words at full volume. But just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. The Prophet said, "A servant may utter a word pleasing to Allah without thinking much of it, but Allah raises him by it. And a servant may utter a word displeasing to Allah without thinking much of it, but it drags him into the hellfire." One sentence. One comment. That's the weight of what leaves your mouth. So next time you're about to clap back in a comment section, or you're ready to roast someone in a group chat, pause. Ask yourself, is this building or breaking? Is this word going to heal or harm? Because here's the truth, your tongue is the only muscle in your body with no bones, yet it's strong enough to break hearts. And this is where it gets personal. Tucker's words hit headlines because he's famous. But you don't need a TV show to make impact. Your circle, your family, your friends, your co-workers, your words are shaping their reality every single day. Your little brother remembers how you spoke to him. Your parents remember the tone you used. Your co-workers remember how you responded under stress. You're leaving imprints all the time. So yeah, Tucker made headlines, but the question isn't about him. The question is about you. What headlines are your words writing in the hearts of the people around you? But Joe Rogan's reaction, that reveals something deeper about perception. And we need to talk about that. You know what struck me about Joe Rogan's reaction? He didn't just jump on the bandwagon and start swinging. He didn't throw fuel on the fire. He paused. He leaned back. He thought. That pause, that tiny gap between hearing something and responding to it, that's where wisdom lives. Most people skip it. They hear, they react, boom, done. But when you actually take a second to think, you see things differently. That's perception. And perception, it shapes everything. Here's the thing. The way you see people is the way you'll treat them. If you walk into a room already assuming everyone's fake, You'll act guarded, defensive, maybe even rude. But if you walk in assuming people are worth knowing, worth giving a chance, you'll treat them with openness. The result? You either build walls or build bridges, based on nothing more than perception. Islam is big on this. There's a whole principle called husn al-dhan, thinking well of others. It doesn't mean being naive or blind. It means not jumping to the worst conclusions. The Prophet taught us that. If you see your brother doing something questionable, don't immediately assume the worst. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because how you perceive people actually affects who you become. Picture this. Imagine you're holding a mirror. If you see dirt in it, you'll convince yourself that's the reflection of the world. But if the mirror is clean, you'll see beauty clearly. Your perception is that mirror. If it's full of suspicion, envy, and cynicism, then even good people will look like enemies to you. But if it's polished with good thoughts, you'll start noticing potential, sincerity, even beauty in people you might have dismissed. And this isn't just some be-positive fluff. It's practical. Think about business. Two people look at the same employee. One sees laziness, the other sees untapped potential. The first will fire them, the second will mentor them. Guess who ends up with loyalty and growth? The one with better perception. Same in family. If a husband sees every mistake his wife makes as she doesn't care, he'll build resentment. But if he perceives her mistakes as human slips, his heart softens. Same wife, same actions, two completely different outcomes because of perception. There's an incredible story about Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph of Islam. Once he heard that one of his governors was living in a house that looked a little too luxurious. People whispered, "Look, he's becoming corrupt." Umar didn't rush to judgment. He didn't blast the guy publicly. Instead, he investigated with fairness. He spoke to the man directly. He gave him a chance to explain. That's leadership through perception. Don't assume the worst, find out the truth. And let's be real, most of us fail at this every day. Someone doesn't text back and we instantly think, they're ignoring me. A friend cancels plans and we jump to, they don't value me. Meanwhile, maybe they're struggling, maybe they're tired, maybe they're just human. But our negative perception poisons the relationship before reality even gets a chance to explain itself. Here's the dangerous part. Perception can turn into prophecy. If you believe people hate you, you'll act cold, defensive, even hostile. Guess what? People will actually start pulling away. Not because they hated you in the first place, but because your perception created that reality. The Prophet said, beware of suspicion, for suspicion is the worst of false tales. Why? Because suspicion isn't just a thought, it's a seed. If you water it long enough, it grows into actions, and those actions destroy relationships. And yet, the flip side is beautiful. Perceive the good in people, and suddenly you empower them. Tell a child you see greatness in them, and watch how they rise to meet it. Tell a friend you trust them, and watch how they strive to live up to that trust. The Prophet looked at people who were broken, poor, and rejected by society, and he saw leaders, he saw light where others saw darkness. That perception didn't just change how he treated them, it changed who they became. So yeah, Joe's reaction stood out. He showed curiosity instead of hostility. That tiny shift in perception made the conversation less about attack and more about understanding. And that's a lesson for us. If you can shift how you see people, you can shift how the story unfolds. But wait, what happens when your perception meets pressure? That's when character gets tested. Here's where it gets real. Words are powerful, perception is powerful, but both of those are tested when the heat is on. Anybody can act calm when life is smooth. Anybody can be polite when they're in control. But the true test of character, it shows up under pressure. That's when the mask falls and the real you comes out. Think about it. You're in traffic, someone cuts you off, and instantly your blood boils. Do you stay calm, or do you roll down the window and turn into a volcano? Or you're at work, your boss criticizes your project in front of everyone. Do you crumble, do you snap back, or do you stay composed? It's in those moments that your character gets exposed, like a photograph developing in the darkroom. Pressure doesn't build character, it reveals it. This isn't new, it's been true for centuries. The Prophet Muhammad faced insults constantly. People called him names, mocked his message, even threw garbage on him while he prayed. Imagine that for a second. Someone dumping trash on your head while you're in the middle of worship. How would you react? Most of us would lose it. But him? He didn't retaliate with insults. He didn't let their hatred dictate his response. He kept his dignity. That's not weakness. That's a level of strength most of us can only dream of. There's a story about a woman who used to throw garbage at him every day as he passed her house. One day she didn't. He noticed. He asked about her. Turned out she was sick. And instead of celebrating that his daily hater was out of commission, he went to visit her to check on her health. That's character under pressure. That's the kind of self-control that flips enemies into allies and haters into admirers. Now, contrast that with the way most people handle criticism today. Someone drops a negative comment online, and suddenly it's a full-blown war. Screenshots, subtweets, dragging matches that last for days. But here's the truth. Nobody remembers the insult. What they remember is how you responded. You think you're defending yourself, but half the time you're just showing the world you have no control over your own emotions. Pressure moments are like X-rays. They reveal the cracks inside. Anger issues? They'll show. Ego problems? They'll show. Patience and humility? They'll shine too. The prophet said, "The strong man is not the one who can wrestle. The strong man is the one who controls himself in anger." That flips the whole script. Strength isn't about domination. It's about restraint. And look, I get it. Pressure feels like an attack. You want to defend yourself, you want to strike back. But what if you saw pressure as a test instead of a threat? What if every heated moment was an opportunity to level up your character? Imagine treating insults as training weights. Each time you resist lashing out, you're building the muscle of patience. Each time you respond with calm, you're stacking strength. Here's a practical example. Umar ibn al-Khattab, known for his fiery temper, once had a man insult him to his face. Instead of blowing up, Umar held himself back. The man was shocked. Later, Umar explained, "I fear that my anger will drag me into something displeasing to Allah." That's next-level awareness. That's not suppression. It's control. Think about sports. The great athletes aren't just skilled. They're composed under pressure. Michael Jordan, Cristiano Ronaldo, Muhammad Ali, when the lights were brightest and the pressure was highest, they didn't crack. They elevated. That's the same in life. When pressure hits, you either crumble or you rise. And the rising doesn't come from talent. It comes from discipline of the heart. Here's the takeaway. Pressure is inevitable. People will insult you, challenge you, misjudge you. Life will throw curveballs when you least expect them. But your reaction, that's your choice. You can choose dignity over drama. You can choose patience over pettiness. And when you do, you don't just protect yourself. You inspire everyone watching. Because make no mistake, people are always watching. Your kids are watching how you react to stress. Your friends are watching how you handle conflict. Even strangers are watching how you carry yourself when you're tested. And in those moments, your reaction preaches louder than any speech. So when the pressure's on, ask yourself, do I want to be remembered as the one who lost control or the one who held the line? Do I want to be the spark that starts the fire or the calm that puts it out? Because that choice defines your character more than any words ever could. And speaking of control, there's one thing more powerful than any headline: your self-control. Self-control. Let's be honest, that's the battlefield everyone's fighting on, whether they admit it or not. You can look polished on the outside, but if you're losing the war inside, it'll show eventually. The truth is, the hardest person to lead, the hardest person to discipline, the hardest person to conquer is yourself. Joe Rogan loves talking about discipline, his workouts, his cold plunges, his diet routines, and that's great. But here's the thing, Islam had been preaching discipline centuries before fitness podcasts and biohacking trends. The entire framework of worship in Islam is basically a school of self-control. Think about fasting. You wake up hungry, thirsty, cranky. You could reach for food, no one's watching, but you don't. Why? Because you know Allah is watching. That's self-control at its finest, restraining, not because of fear of people, but out of consciousness of God. And it doesn't stop at food. Fasting trains your tongue, your temper, your thoughts. You want to snap back at someone? You hold it. You want to gossip? You hold it. Fasting is basically a reset button for the soul, teaching you if you can control the little things like food and water, then you can control the bigger battles too. Prayer does the same. It's not just a ritual where you stand, bow, and prostrate. It's a discipline of time management, focus, humility, 5 times a day, no excuses. You could be busy, you could be tired, but that alarm goes off and you drop everything to connect. That's training, that's self-control. And when you build that habit daily, suddenly you're not a slave to your mood or schedule, you're in charge. The Prophet said, the real strong person is not the one who defeats others in wrestling, but the one who controls himself at the time of anger. That flips the whole definition of strength upside down. Society tells us strength is about domination, power, muscle. Islam says strength is when your desires don't own you, because here's the truth. If you can't say no to your impulses, then you're not in control, they are. And man, do we live in a world designed to break our self-control. Ads everywhere telling you just one more purchase. Food apps saying just one more bite. Social media screaming just one more scroll. The entire economy thrives on you losing discipline. That's why self-control is more than personal, it's revolutionary. When you master yourself, you unplug from systems that profit off your weakness. There's a story about Imam al-Ghazali. He said the self is like a wild horse. If you let it run free, it'll destroy everything in its path. But if you train it, guide it, and ride it, that same horse can take you places you never imagined. That's the difference between chaos and mastery. And the tools of Islam, fasting, prayer, charity, remembrance, are like reins to guide that horse. But here's the kicker, self-control doesn't mean self-denial. It's not about killing your desires, it's about managing them. Islam doesn't say don't eat, don't sleep, don't love, don't enjoy life. It says do all of that, but with balance. Eat, but don't be greedy. Love, but don't make it obsession. Earn money, but don't worship it. It's about moderation. Self-control isn't a prison. It's freedom from being enslaved by your own cravings. Think about the people you admire. The athlete who stays disciplined year after year. The scholar who spends decades studying. The entrepreneur who resists comfort to build something great. What do they all have in common? Self-control. And the people who crash and burn, 9 times out of 10, it's because they lost control. Over their anger, their ego, their appetite. Empires fall not because of outside enemies, but because leaders couldn't master themselves. And that's the reality check. If you can't rule yourself, how will you ever rule anything else? You can't lead a family, a community, or even your own future if your desires are driving the car and you're just the passenger. That's why Islam hammers self-control so hard. Because once you master yourself, you can handle anything the world throws at you. Insults, temptations, stress. None of it can break you if you've already disciplined the battlefield inside. That's not just religious advice. That's peak human performance advice. So the next time you're tested, whether it's resisting that impulse to explode in anger, resisting that craving that you know isn't good for you, or just dragging yourself out of bed for Fajr, remember, these are not small struggles. These are training sessions for your soul. Each victory, no matter how small, is proof that you're not a slave to your impulses, you're the master of them. But here's the twist. This isn't just about you, it's about the impact you leave behind. Legacy. That's the word nobody wants to talk about until it's too late. We get so caught up in chasing headlines, likes, followers, paychecks, that we forget none of that sticks. News cycles fade faster than a Snapchat story. Outrage gets replaced by the next scandal. Even fame is temporary. But your legacy, that's what lingers long after you're gone. Look at history. Do you remember the richest man in Mecca during the Prophet's time? Probably not. Do you remember the names of the most famous poets of that era, the celebrities of their day? Most people don't. But ask anyone, anywhere in the world, Muslim or not, if they've heard of Muhammad. A man who left no castles, no piles of gold, no trending hashtags, but left behind a character so powerful it reshaped humanity. That's legacy. And here's the catch. Your legacy isn't something you build at the end of your life. It's not a project you start at retirement. It's being written right now, in real time, through the choices you make every day, the way you treat your parents, the way you speak to your spouse, the way you show up at work, the way you help or ignore people in need. Every word, every action, every moment is a brushstroke painting the picture of how you'll be remembered. People won't remember the details of your bank account, but they'll remember if you were generous. They won't recall every outfit you wore, but they'll remember if you carried yourself with dignity. They won't care about your job title as much as they'll care about whether you were honest, kind, dependable. Legacy isn't about what you owned. It's about what you gave. There's this beautiful saying from the Prophet. When a person dies, all their deeds come to an end except 3: ongoing charity, beneficial knowledge, or a righteous child who prays for them. That's legacy in 3 dimensions. Charity that keeps benefiting people long after you're gone. Knowledge you shared that continues guiding others. children you raised who carry forward your values. Notice none of those are flashy. None of them are about being famous, but all of them outlive you. Think about it. Have you ever had a teacher who believed in you, who spoke words that stuck with you years later? That's their legacy alive inside you. Or maybe your parents sacrificed for you and you carry their lessons every day. That's their legacy moving through you. Legacy isn't some grand monument. It's the fingerprints you leave on people's hearts. And don't underestimate the small things. Sometimes the tiniest act leaves the biggest mark. A smile you gave to someone who was breaking inside. A piece of advice you offered at the right time. A hand you extended when nobody else noticed. You might forget it by dinner time, but that person might remember it for life. Legacy isn't measured by size, it's measured by impact. But here's where most people get it wrong. They chase recognition instead of impact. They want their names on plaques, their faces in headlines, their posts going viral, but recognition fades while impact multiplies. You can have 10 million followers today and be forgotten tomorrow. Or you can change one person's life in a way that echoes for generations. Which one do you think matters more on the day of judgment? There's a story about Uthman ibn Affan, one of the Prophet's closest companions. He once bought a well in Medina, yes, a well, and made it public so everyone could drink from it for free. That simple act of generosity still benefits people to this day. Imagine that. Over 1,000 years later, people still quench their thirst from his act of charity. That's legacy, a single well outliving empires. So the question isn't whether you'll leave a legacy, you will. The question is, what kind of legacy it'll be. Will people remember you as someone who lifted others up, or someone who only looked out for themselves? Will they remember you for your kindness or for your temper, for your integrity, or for your ego? You don't get to decide if you leave a legacy, but you do get to decide what kind. And here's the powerful part. Legacy isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. Nobody's flawless, but if you consistently strive to do good, consistently try to be kind, consistently work on yourself, then those ripples spread. Long after your name is forgotten, your actions keep echoing. So yeah, Tucker's words made headlines. Joe's reaction made clips. But those things, they'll fade. What won't fade is the imprint you leave on the people around you. That's the story that keeps being told after you're gone. That's the chapter you get to write every single day. So Tucker may shock, Joe may react, but at the end of the day, the mic is in your hand. What story are you writing with your life?